Hi everybody. So the Kool-Aid drinking continues. I had this YouTube user comment on my rant about pinephone that he asked me what part of beta did I not understand. Well, I told him that the part where the beta never ends is the part I don't understand. And then he calls back to me and says, it's an open source dev platform. Yes, it takes time. A lot of progress was made this year so far. So I challenged him on that. Progress? Let's discuss your list. So here's his list. Modem has open source firmware available. Graphics acceleration was improved a few months ago. Waydroid works now and runs pretty dang well. Under the hood stuff too. My pinephone runs better now than it did in March when I got it. It's awesome seeing the software improve. Well, let's dissect that, shall we? He said a lot of progress was made. I heard three things: modem, so open source firmware, graphics acceleration, Waydroid. That's three things, right? That's not a lot of progress. That's minimal. I mean, plus all these three things. I had to Google all this stuff because it's all news to me. So let's start with the modem. Open source firmware is available. Well, that's really interesting because upon Googling that, there's proprietary firmware in there that has probably copyright issues because there's some kind of legality problem with. So they can't. It's never going to come from the factory with open source software on it because the chip owner says no, you can't do that. So you have to hack the phone yourself to do that, and I'm not sure what the personal liability will be for hacking a modem that has a copyright. I don't think you can do that basically. So cross number one off the list. Number two, graphics acceleration was improved a few months ago. I was unable to find any evidence of that occurring. From what I understand, the original pinephone has no GPU, so I don't think there's anything to improve there. So we'll just move on from that. Waydroid works now. Well, I didn't. What the fuck was Waydroid? Was what I thought. So apparently, Waydroid is a hypervisor container that runs virtual machines. From what I read on and looking up. So, yeah. So Mr. Kool-Aid, it's not a Pine hypervisor. It's a Pine phone. It doesn't run virtual machines. It makes phone calls. I didn't buy a Pine hypervisor. And in doing that, we basically have three things that did not improve the phone whatsoever for being a phone. So the progress so far is zero. Now, while looking for this stuff, I ran into some other things too. Let's take a look here. Okay. The first thing I discovered, this firmware for the pinephone modem is developed by hackers. The pinephone is an inexpensive smartphone designed to run free and open source operating systems like Manjaro, Postmarket, but the phone isn't 100% open hardware. Its modem the modem it ships with relies on proprietary closed source firmware. Interesting. So it's not open source on the hardware. That's interesting. A team of independent developers are working to provide an alternative, and it looks like they're getting closer all the time. Okay, and I'm going to skip past the cheering part. You probably won't be able to buy a pinephone that ships with open source modem firmware anytime soon. It says there's various legal constraints that make it unlikely. In other words, they'll get their asses sued if they dare flash it because there's a copyright on it. Or a patent, not a copyright. A patent is probably what the problem is. So pinephone uses a closed source patented modem for the phone hardware. And does that make me feel eager that the phone feasibility of this device is going to be good? No, it does not. And okay, so what else did I find? Well, let's move on because I found some other things too. Yeah, I'm just going to pause you while I find it. Okay, found it. So regarding the modem software, a few months ago, a small team of independent developers released an open source alternative to the proprietary firmware. It was a bit buggy at the time, but it was mostly free of proprietary blobs. I'm not sure what they mean by blobs, but so the firmware that this guy says was an improvement needs improvement. So that cancels out all three of them and puts them into -1 territory. All right, so let me look for something else. Oh wait, there's more in this post. Since then, developers, and there's 2 names listed, have continued to work on their software, and it's now pretty close to being a fully functional replacement for the PinePhone's default modem firmware. So it's not a replacement yet. So that's not an improvement. That's just another pie in the sky. Drink some more Kool-Aid and let's move on to the next topic. More information on the modem firmware. The pinephone contains amazingly few binary blobs. One of those is the modem firmware of the manufacturer. This modem is quite capable in terms of LTE band coverage, but prone to crashes and other mysterious flaws. There is a firmware upgrade available, but people have reported instabilities with it. So the whole thing is just modem crap. It's all modem crap. And so that improvement means the phone is better than it was before, not just creates a new problem to solve the old problem. So I found this one while looking for the rest of the information. It's ycombinator.com. It's some type of blog, Hacker News. Pinephone, open source smartphone supported by major Linux phone projects. That's the title of this page. Catman 3 months ago, so it's currently November, so in the summertime. The pinephone is great. In fact, I'm typing this comment from mine. Well, it's a pine phone, not pine notepad, so your comment is really irrelevant because it doesn't. It's a phone. It's not notepad. It's not a text editor that I bought. I bought a phone. Anyway, what else is this guy? That said, fair warning to anyone thinking about getting one. It's slow, buggy, flat out unreliable if you need to be able to answer calls and texts for anything important. Did you catch that, Kool-Aid drinkers? It's unreliable. And there's been no improvement to that since that was commented on, or before or after it was commented on. No improvement. All I can do is run virtual machines, apparently. Anyway, I digress. Once they get the software worked out over the next few years, though, it'll be the best thing out there. No ads, no bullshit, just a phone with a mainline Linux distribution. Well, in the modern world, products go from initial development to one in every home in only a couple of years now. The pinephone will be dead before it ever gets to market. It will never get there. It's dead now because they've released the Pro version, which will be the new flagship buggy hardware software combination that won't work either. Mark my words. And further down in this blog, there's an interesting comment too. I'm coming to the realization that open source projects will always provide a lower quality than commercial ones. How can we honestly expect a small team of developers to compete with the larger teams a commercial project can afford? And they're not getting paid for it either, so he's absolutely correct. The reality is we can't. And we will always compare pinephone and other things to iOS and Android, and they'll always come up short. So pinephone sucks now, it will always suck and never stop sucking. That's what he just said. Also, a large part of using a smartphone is the apps. Without apps, the phone is just really a phone. I'd be okay with that if it was a phone, because it's not a phone today. For me, I want to use pinephone. To want to use pinephone, they would need to make it super easy to have Android on there. Well, I don't know about that.